Welcome to Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly with host Nancy Becker on Global Voice Radio. Nancy and her guests will share tips and recommendations on moving forward in your life and business now and not waiting till pigs fly. Here's your host, Nancy Becker.
Hello there, everybody. Good day, and welcome to another edition of Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly, where we have discussions with business experts talking to us about the tips and strategies that they use to grow their business successfully. Today, we're talking with Mike Monfredi. Is that how you pronounce it, Mike?
Yep, Mike Monfredi. You got it.
Okay. All right. And he is a 30-ish CEO, blogger, and forensic scientist. Wow. Those are three very different topics.
That's fair.
He writes financial insights for family and business and fitness tips for all. He's growing his family-owned business while focusing on staying fit and being a solid family man. And he's writing about all the highs and lows on Mic'd Up blog. He's going to talk with us today about how to start a business and how to be in business. This is a conversation that we're going to have that is probably going to hit home for a lot of people, because for the most part, we all are trying to balance life and business and doing the things that we love. So welcome, Mike.
Nancy, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You said you've been traveling. Where were you traveling from? I know this is going to be a long conversation.
I'll try to be as concise as I can be. We actually just got back. It was a 9-day trip in Maui, which is a place that's near and dear to my heart. I used to live and work on the island for about 6 or 7 months. And 4 years ago, my wife and I took a vacation there before we had any kids, and we fell in love all over again with the location. We just probably had the best time of our lives, frankly, at that spot that we went to. Is Lahaina on the western coast there, and just had a blast. So we've got a 3.5-year-old that we thought, well, hey, it might be a good time to maybe take her, because my wife is also pregnant with our second child. So it's kind of right in that sweet spot of if we're going to do this, we got to do it right now kind of a thing.
Right. How exciting is that? That's great.
Oh, yeah, we had a blast. It was kind of, and we might get into this here a little bit more, but it was kind of like a present to ourselves. Basically, after we closed the first fiscal year of our business, was like, okay, we made it. We're not bankrupt. Things are going well enough. It's okay to take this trip and kind of breathe for a minute.
Sounds like something that we all need to do, a very wise decision on a couple of different fronts. So congratulations for seeing it and taking that action and doing it. So let's just jump right in and start talking about business. Why in the heck did you ever decide to start a business? And a blogger and a forensic scientist? Talk a little bit about that. How does that work?
Sure thing. Business, I guess entrepreneurship is something that's been kind of close to me for ever since I was a youngster. And I didn't really realize it until just maybe like 5 or so years ago. But my mom was an entrepreneur twice over, started 2 businesses out of our kitchen. And I kind of saw that process and everything that she had gone through, the decisions that she had to make, kind of the excitement of the process. And I didn't realize it, like I said at the time, but I caught that bug early. And I remember as a kid myself, not, entering high school, going into college, people would ask me, well, what do you want to do with your life? And I always said, well, I want to run a business. And they'd say, what do you want to do? And I said, I have no idea, but whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to try to do it the best that I can. I have to figure that part out. But I know, at some point there'll be a business somewhere. So I went for a while, went through college, did my undergrad. I was a science guy and got through grad school. master's degree, I did some research that took me to a different tropical location, but I was kind of, I guess, floating through professionally, and I didn't really have any clear direction. My wife and I moved to a new town. She got into dental school, which is segue to our business and kind of how I entered that entrepreneurship in the first place. But she ended up getting into dental school at Ohio State, which is in Columbus, Ohio. We moved to Columbus, and I needed to get a job, so worked a couple of different positions for a few different years. Ended up getting, fortunately, offered the position as a forensic scientist, and I've been there for 6 or 7 years now. But I worked for other people for almost a decade, and I was doing fine, and things were going well, and I was moving along as one would in a position like that. But I always had it in the back of my mind, business, what's it going to be? I have no idea. And my wife, it was kind of ironic, as she was going through dental school, was 100% adamant that she's never going to own her own practice. She always, didn't want the responsibility. It's just a lot of extra headaches, and there are other things that you have to think about. She's very passionate about the dentistry and the actual work itself. And, for the first 2 years after she got out of school, she wanted nothing to do with it. But then she kind of got into it a little bit more and started to realize that, there are some micro decisions and some little bit macro decisions that you can make in your business and your practice that have a pretty big impact on the quality of work that you're doing and the quality of life that you have outside of work. And I'll never forget the day, but one day she came home and she looked me in the eye and she said, "Hey, I have something I need to talk to you about." And if you know my wife, she's normally a very chill person. She doesn't say things like that very often. So I sat down, poured a glass of whiskey, and I said, "Okay, let's have it. What's going on?" She said, I think I want to own my own business. I think I want to start looking at different practices." And I said, "Oh my goodness, that is so exciting. Let's go." Because finally this was the vehicle for me, and it was something that she also wanted to do, and it wasn't me coercing her into it. So there's that happy medium for us right there.
That's exciting. So your business now is a dental practice? Is that what?
Yes. Yep. Spot on. So my wife, it's a long and winding road about how we got there, but she is the business owner, the one that actually owns the practice. And she's hired me on as the CEO is technically how the structure looks. But yeah, I run the day-to-day operations, do the bookkeeping, the financials, staff development, HR work, all of that behind the scenes, and kind of some of the in front of the scenes stuff. And she's the one that handles all the clinical operations, all the dentistry, obviously, and some of the large scale decisions. We work on that stuff together. But yes, that is our business. That's what we've been working on for the last almost year and a half now. And it's been pretty exciting. I'll get into how our ride was for the first year, and it's a little bit turbulent up and down, but in spite of that, we were able to achieve some pretty good results. And I'm very proud of how our team performed and how we're doing so far.
Let's just keep going. I mean, that's exactly the kind of thing that I think our listeners want to hear, is the ups and downs. I did an interview with someone earlier today, and we were talking about creating the story behind your business. So create a story for us and tell us all about those exciting minutes.
Sure thing, Nancy. Yeah, I can do that. No problem. You just, I'm a wind up toy. So you wind me up and let me go. Just tell me when you want me to stop.
Go for it.
All right. Appreciate it. So when she came home that day and told me, "Hey, this is something I want to do," I was excited. I was over the moon, thrilled. And for the first, 48 hours, 3 days worth of time, I was just on cloud nine, ready to go, 100 miles an hour. All right, let's get moving. And then kind of the luster wore off, and I sat down and I thought to myself, okay, what do we actually need to do now? What are some things that I need to start thinking about? So first things first, we had to start forming our team. And there was one person that we worked with on a personal level that kind of handled some stuff for us as a financial advisor. I reached out to him. He also worked with some other dentists in our town and at the university that my wife graduated from. And I said, "Hey, what are some things that I need to be thinking about? We're getting started with this process, and what's step one?" And he, luckily for us, was very helpful. He told me, you need to start putting a team around you of professionals that know what you're doing, that know the market and the field that you're kind of getting into. So we went, and first things first, looked for kind of an advisor or somebody that could help us just with large scale issues. And fortunately for us, there's a CPA, somebody that we've been working with since it's been about 2-3 years now, that is very familiar with dental practices and how they run. I reached out to them and kind of got that ball moving with them. And then we had to start looking at different attorneys, and there was also a broker that we had to go through. But it wasn't just, meet these people, contract with these people, and move on to the next one. It was, meet lawyer A, figure out how they do business, what their fees are, and all of those other particulars. Meet lawyer B, same thing, C, D, and then kind of evaluate and make a decision. So it's a pretty painstaking process, and obviously large scale decisions, because, if you make the wrong decision in any one of these categories, it can set you back big time. As we learned, we actually picked a lawyer that didn't really work out for us personality wise, and we had to kind of go and re-investigate that process. But we got that team put around us. And, we had kind of a plan of what it was that we needed to do. So we knew that we wanted to buy the business. We kind of had the support staff, and now we needed to go find that business. We knew that we didn't want to start from scratch. Basically, when you're looking for a dental practice, there are traditionally two options. You can do a startup practice, which is just like it sounds. You've got no equipment, no patients, no nothing, and you just build from the bottom up. And then the other option traditionally is an acquisition, which is you go in, find a dentist that's looking to sell the practice or phase out, negotiate the sale, and move on from there. What we wanted was an acquisition because, with me working another job full time and everything else that we had going on personally, like I said, we have a young daughter and another one on the way. The startup just sounded like a lot of work, and we didn't really want, we didn't want all of that for us at the time. So the traditional route, if you're going with a acquisition, is to hire a broker, start looking for different practices that are listed, and go from there. But as you get to know us maybe a little bit more, you'll find out that we're not the most traditional type of folk. So we sat down one day and we drafted a letter, and we looked I just did a Google search of dentists near me, and we tried to figure out who they were and kind of when they graduated from dental school to get a relative idea of how old they were. And maybe, who are some of the dentists in our area that might be looking to retire or sell their practice sometime soon. And we wrote a letter and we said, hey, we're in this area. We're looking for a practice. If you know of anybody that's interested, if you're interested, we'd love to take you to lunch, or have a half hour of your time. Please reach out and let us know. So we sent 25 of those out, and we got about 5 or 6 responses back. We looked at those practices, had conversations with those dentists, and ended up negotiating with 2 of them. And it's not, the most traditional process, like I said, but it worked out, at least to that point for us. So we were pretty excited about it. And we narrowed it down to one that we really kind of fell in love with. And we started pursuing that practice and doing all the due diligence. We even got so far as drafting up a bill of sale and other legal documents. We're pretty close to the goal line here, getting this thing accomplished and finally realizing this dream. And, with that come all the legal fees and everything else that accompany buying a business, or at least for our experience. And we were pretty into that as well. But then at the last minute, the seller got cold feet, which was for a totally legitimate reason. There was a health situation that came up, and their financial situation had changed, and they were ultimately going to need to work for a little bit longer. And, we were kind of crushed a little bit, but we took a step back, kind of reset, and said, okay, well, maybe, the untraditional route's not going to be the best way to go for us at this present time. We weren't going to send the same letter out to the same 25 people. It seemed kind of a waste of time and redundant. So then we kind of conformed. We said, all right, hand up. All right, we tried it. Let's go with the broker and see how that works. So we looked at other offices outside of our town, our immediate area, and, different practices that we didn't really know about before. And that was helpful. And we looked around and just couldn't find anything that we really loved, because when you're looking at a practice, it's not just, how is it performing financially. You're looking at the staff, you're looking at the patient base, how much work is available in the patients that you have. Is there potential for new patients in your area? There's just a ton of metrics that you want to check out in addition to how it's performing. and we didn't really find anything that we really loved, because we were looking for, I guess, like you would look when you're buying a house. You want to buy, or at least when we were looking to buy a house, you want to buy not the best house in the neighborhood, but a house in the neighborhood that if you could put a little love into, maybe upgrade a couple of things, spend a little bit of money and sweat equity, you could really improve it and improve the value if it was something you were looking to sell. I mean, that was kind of our approach with the practice. We wanted to have something that we can make an impact with and in a positive direction. So we didn't find that for the longest time, or what seemed like the longest time. I have no patience, so I'll say that up front, but it was probably about 6 months or so. And then my wife comes home one day, and she had been approached by her former boss before. And, the former boss was, hey, you ever want to buy this place? Let me know. I'd love to talk with you about it. And my wife just didn't want anything to do with it for whatever reason, because it was familiar. It was maybe a little bit more work than we wanted initially. It's like that fixer-upper that's got the great price, but needs a little bit more sweat equity, right? Mm-hmm. So one day she came home to me, and the phrase that stuck with me that she said, I mean, she's a very smart woman. You'll get to know that as well. But she said, why are we trying repeatedly to open doors in front of us that are locked all around us, when we could just turn around and walk through the open door that's right behind us? I mean, it's easy. We know the staff, we know the patients. She knew how the office operated, and there was just a lot of familiarity there. And when she said that, it kind of clicked in my mind. It's like, this makes total sense. So we went through and had a little bit of a difficult negotiation. It was hard to come to an agreement on what the practice was worth, just because of some of the particulars of it. But ultimately we got there, and we negotiated a sale price and got all the particulars worked out. We were getting pretty close to the goal line. And there was this one issue that kept cropping up, and I kept kicking the can down the road a little bit. But it was getting ultimately a couple of weeks until we had to hit closing because of the bank loan and just the way that the timing was working out. And that was a lease on the current office space. The seller didn't have one existing. She was kind of going month to month and was looking to negotiate down the road. But our bank said that, hey, we have to have a lease in place, something that's going to say you've got a location to do business for at least 5 years, which is not an unreasonable thing. So I had been badgering this landlord constantly about, hey, help me out here. This thing is, we're getting close to the end, getting close to the goal line. I need a little bit of help, give me some inclination. They just wouldn't respond. We got so far as visiting their offices and trying to find out, where they live personally. I mean, I'm trying to pay this person, right? You would think that they would want to talk to me. But come to find out, they were looking at potentially selling that office space, and they were going through their own negotiations, and they didn't really want to jeopardize that with signing a new lease that this potential buyer might not like. So found that out in the final hour. We had 30 days until closing when they finally responded and told me that. And I'm like, this bank needs a signed and ready to go lease with a landlord for some office space that says we're going to have a place to do business, and we didn't have it. And I don't know your experience with negotiating professional leases, but that can be a timely process. You do have experience?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
You're nodding your head.
Yes.
So not only did we have to find a new space, but we had to negotiate a lease and all the particulars that come with that in 30 days, and then sign on the dotted line in order to get this purchase, this thing that we had been working for almost a year for and paid countless legal fees and man hours. And, it was a very crazy time. So we hired that broker, went into overdrive. I was working with them around the clock and ended up finding a great location and a great part of town. It's only a mile away from where we had done business previously, so the patients wouldn't be put out, and everything was perfect. And we're moving along, and we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, and talking about different drafts of this lease and what it's going to look like, how the rent payments are going to go. And then I can't remember exactly what the issue was, but there were 2 days left till closing, and we were kind of far apart on one issue. And the landlord knew that, we were up against it on the time situation, which was a mistake on my part. I've learned that now, but when he found that out, there went all of our leverage. He knew that that was our only option. And there, if we were going to buy our business, that we had to sign whatever lease he put in front of us. So we ended up paying a little bit more than we wanted to, as far as lease payments go in the long term. But ultimately, we were back in business. The thing was on. We were ready to go with the acquisition, and then now we were going to have to move to a brand new space. So the one thing I didn't mention previously was that in order to pay for this move that we were going to have to undergo, I went back to our original seller to say, hey, the practice isn't really worth what it was before, because we're going to have to move it. Anybody that would purchase it would have to move it. And, we need a little bit of help with offsetting that cost. So fortunately for us at the time, she was able to come down about 33% on the price, which was phenomenal. Great. So we thought, yeah.
No,
but then no, we found out down the road that it was about 66% of additional cost to move it. And in the short term, that might sound terrible. We overpaid for the practice that we thought was going to be a great value. But I think we're proving now, and we proved in the short term, that there are some gains that can be realized over time. And it's just a matter of putting in that sweat equity that I was talking about previously to get there.
Yeah. I'm going to stop you for a second, because
Sure.
we're quickly going through our time, and I have several questions that I want to ask. And the first one is, I am amazed as a first-time entrepreneur, business owner, that even though you had your mom as in the background, seeing what she had done, how you knew to do all of these things. So often when somebody decides they're going to open a business, they get business cards, they get a Facebook page, and they go, okay, I'm ready for business, and they don't realize all the different steps and actions and thoughts that they have to go through in order to get this successful business. Did you, not only did you talk about things, but did you write things down? Did you, what were the actual physical steps that got you to even thinking about these things? You had to have somewhere in the background knowledge of this stuff.
That's a phenomenal question, and two-part answer, I would say. The first part is the help that I talked about previously. We had advisors, we had professionals in basically every walk, legally, financially, tax purpose wise.
But how did
I had resources that I could reach out.
How did you even know to reach out to resources? I mean, to me, that seems like that's step 3 or 4 down the road. That's not something that a lot of business owners right out of the box are even going to realize. How did you know to even look for resources?
That's a great question. And so I run a blog as well, which it's a business technically, but it's nowhere near the scale of what this dental practice is. We went into business as a healthcare business. We have 6 employees now. The gravity, I guess, of the situation, knowing that we're responsible for paying for 6 people's livelihood. We're putting food on the table for those 6 people. That and our family. Like if this business failed, ultimately we're going to go bankrupt, and our life situation is going to be different for the next 10 years, at least minimum. And the gravity of that situation forced me to figure out everything I needed to know from the jump. And then I had those people that I could reach out to when, I'm holding up a piece of notebook paper right now. Mm-hmm. I had, front and back, I write very small, just scribbled notes of to-do lists, and 2 or 3 of those different pieces of computer paper. And I was just going crazy, but I wrote everything down. Mm-hmm. Eventually I got a system that I put into place about how I track those things, because it's, it's not just the business that I'm keeping track of, but it's the blog and then my day job and all of our family stuff as well. But the gravity of the situation is how I knew, because I knew that this stuff mattered. It mattered more than oh, hey, we want to be business owners and we want to be successful and we want to make money. That's great. No, like we had to succeed because we had to put food on our table. We had to put food on our employees' table. And it wasn't just going to stop there either. We didn't just want to pay people. I told our staff when we either hired them from the old practice or hired them new via interviews, I told them that this business is going to be a place that you can retire from someday. And what that means, with benefits, with competitive wages, all of those things. Like, I want to be known as the business that pays our people too much. And in order to be able to do that stuff, I had to answer those questions and build that foundation from the jump. I guess that's why.
Yeah. I think everything that you're saying is so important. And it's frustrating because so often entrepreneurs just out of the box don't, and this is a horrible generalization, guys, and I'm sorry to make this, but it's something that I see over and over again, is that people will say, I want to be a dentist. I want to own a dentist's office, for instance. And they'll just jump into it without doing their research, without figuring out, it starts with, where do you want to be 10 years from now? Do you really want to have a successful, and just go from there? And people don't. So I give you a lot of credit for even doing this. What can you tell our listeners that can really separate them out into whether it's something they want to do as a hobby, or whether it's something they want to do for a couple of years, or, what do they need to think about going into business for themselves?
Is it, you got to ask yourself the question, is it something that has the potential to keep you up at night, and not in a negative way? Is it something that when you're laying in bed getting ready to go to sleep, you have this great idea that pops into your head about this business that you just have to write down because you don't want to forget about it, because it's something that could make a big difference for you? If it's something that excites you, that gets your blood flowing, then that's probably a pretty good sign for you that this is something that might be a little bit more than a hobby for you. And if I could just maybe take a couple of steps back,
Sure.
if that's all right with you, Nancy.
Absolutely.
On my site, I talk about how you're the CEO or the CFO or whatever title you want to give yourself of your family, or you have something to do with, controlling some aspect of your family. All of us can fit into that bucket. I learned that very much so the hard way. I graduated from college in 2008, right when the recession was going on, and I was a college athlete, which is something that I hadn't talked about before, but I was very proud. I had a very big ego. I thought that I could fail, not at all, and whatever I did, I was going to be successful. Well, I invested. I had saved up a lot of money. I worked through high school, and I saved up about $10,000, put it into the market with the help of my grandfather, who helped me grow that to almost $30,000. So we increased it tremendously. And I'm riding high on my high horse, and I'm thinking I can do no wrong. And then all of a sudden the crash comes, and my 30,000 turned it back into 10 very quickly, just because of how it was invested. And I didn't know enough to get out, or to invest in different vehicles. So it was a $20,000 education and a big time reality check for me that if you're going to be dabbling as a C whatever O in your family business, or in whatever business you're going to start, you better have an idea what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be talking about. And if you're investing in something, you should have a pretty good idea of how that thing works and what are some things that you can do to control that investment. So I would say that, that stark realization back then was something that implanted in my mind and made me realize that I needed to understand and know what was happening so that I could most positively affect change.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking, because there's so much here, we could continue talking for hours and not cover everything, but let's jump ahead. You've been in business now for about a year, correct?
Yes, it's been about 15 months now.
Okay. and you've been able to take the time to have a vacation, how does that feel? I mean, for years, so many businesses can't even get past the first year of being in business. And you've not only been now for 15 months, but you're making enough financial capital that you were able to take a 9-day vacation. And, how does that make you feel? How did you get to that point?
Oh my goodness, Nancy, I feel elated, and it was incredible because, I'm working, like I said, I have the day job. I'm also blogging pretty intensely on the side, and we're trying to run this practice. So I went on the vacation with the family. We got to ride some waves and just kick back and relax for quite a while, which was phenomenal. And instead of doing 3 jobs, I only had really 1.5 that I needed to focus on. And it hadn't been like that for quite some time. So stress is relieved. Very proud of the ability to do that. I don't take it lightly. I mean, going to Maui is not the most frugal vacation in the world, but we did it in a way that kind of offset the cost a little bit. We went during an off season and might have cut the price in half. But yeah, I mean, elated is how I feel. Very proud.
And how did you manage to actually step away from the business? For so many, it takes years before, a business owner is able to step away and say, I'm leaving for 9 days. See you guys when I get back. Did you take your phones and your tablets and everything? Were you in constant contact, or did you just shut everything off and say the office will handle itself?
Well, I kind of cheated, if I'm honest. We shut the office down for a week in that time period that we were gone. And it's not a new thing for our practice. We shut down once normally in the summertime and then once around Christmas. But at the same time, we had some of our people were in the office either returning voicemails or scheduling a patient appointments or things like that. And yes, I had the phones available, but there was a 6-hour time change, and I was available, but I wasn't normally available like I otherwise would be. I think, I don't know, maybe it's a fault of mine, but I'm unable to unplug. I would have to physically go someplace where my phone doesn't work.
I'm that way too, always.
But
go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but as an entrepreneur, I mean, you have to, I don't know, you kind of have to be available. I was, we're fortunate, and we've worked hard to get to the point that we had emails coming in while we were away of prospective new patients saying, hey, I saw all the awesome reviews you guys have online. This is my situation. I'd love to be a new patient. Are you accepting this insurance? And if I didn't respond to those people, I would be kind of going against the experience that we want to provide for our patients, because our whole mantra, our whole ethos is to treat our people, our employees, the best that we possibly can, and that will ultimately reflect positively on the patients. We want to leave them with the impression that these people actually care about me as a person. And if somebody sent me an email and I didn't respond to them for 9 days, that totally goes against what our philosophy is. So yeah, it's hard for me to unplug, I guess.
But absolutely, you're right. I mean, you need to, even if you do step away from things, you need to have, and you've mentioned the words in our conversation, the processes and the strategies in place that can manage things around the clock, whether you're doing it or not. And I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to get my clients to realize, that they're to a point, most of them, where it's time for them to start putting these processes and strategies into place, having the accountant, having the lawyer, having an office staff of some sort. Could the office staff have sent out the email saying, hey, yes, we do take the insurance? It's creating those strategies which allow you to maintain your business functionality while allowing you to do some of the things that you really wanted when you started the business. Does that make sense?
I think 100%. It does. It makes complete sense. And I was getting ready to say, to expound on what you were saying. And then you kind of hit me with a reality dose there, is that, if I was really prepared and running at 100%, I'd have somebody else that was able to handle that stuff and respond to those emails. So I think it's a great point. And what I was going to say, no, what I was going to say was, the way that we're able to leave the office for 9 days and trust our people to be in there, and respond to the phone calls and all the things that they actually did do is the trust and the foundation that we had built up previously with our staff. If we didn't trust them enough to do that, and we didn't put in that extra sweat equity that I keep talking about on the front end, then there's no way. I would have been a nervous wreck, other than as opposed to somebody who's on vacation and excited to be there and relaxed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you need to have some of that too. What's the point of having a vacation if you can't be relaxed?
Yeah, that's 100% correct there. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and I don't know if you want to know about kind of how we went about putting that trust in place and how we started working to that. But if you do, we can talk more about that.
We've got a few more minutes, and if people are interested in this, which I think they are, then we might be able to stretch this out into a second interview down the road a little ways. But we've got about five more minutes. So let me know how you do that.
All right, no problem at all. So when we first started out, I knew that we wanted to build this level of respect and trust with our staff, so that when a patient came in and saw the way that we interacted with them, that they were, the patients could see that, hey, the staff respects the owners respect the staff, and it was this mutually positive relationship. And that was going to be hard for me because I wasn't in the office full time, but I was going to be there, part time, interacting with people, and obviously my wife was going to be there every day, all day. So she had the ability to interact with them, to meet with them, to discuss things during the day, but I didn't have that. And also we wanted to find a way where we can kind of convey the culture that we wanted to have at our practice, kind of the way that we did business and thought about different questions. So our strategy, our onboarding program for everybody that we employ, which is 100% female staff, coincidentally, is a book that really made an impression on me. It's called Extreme Ownership: How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. It's written by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, 2 retired Navy SEAls. You're nodding your head.
Oh,
okay.
Yes, I know the book well.
Yeah, I love that thing. I read it when we were buying the business. It made a huge impression on me, and literally I've read it, probably a dozen times now, because every time we hire somebody new, that's our onboarding program. I go through that chapter by chapter. We have discussions. I'm on chapter 7 with somebody right now, and the principles and the lessons that I've taken and that we've taken out of that book, it's phenomenal, because we can apply them to the business, and that's good and great. But, the skeptical looks that I got from our staff when I first gave them this book turned into so appreciative after the lessons were done, because all of us were able to learn something and take it not only to the professional lives, but also apply it in our family lives. It's made me a better husband. I've had some of our staff talk about how it's helped them to parent a little bit better or look at things just differently. And I guess ultimately we're able to talk about issues that prop up in the office and reference points in that book, because we have that common knowledge and that we've had those discussions. And, yes, we can talk about all these different things, and that's good. But I guess when it comes down to it, it was an excuse for me to talk to our staff outside of our normal business hours and to kind of form a relationship. And I think, if I had to pick one thing, that's probably the thing that I'm most excited that we actually did from day one.
And what was the name of the book again, so that our listeners can go out and find it?
Sure thing. It's called Extreme Ownership, and the subtitle is How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win. It's written by Jocko Willink, Jocko, and Leif Babin, Leif. I swear by the book. Every time I get a chance to write about it on my site, I do. So, yeah, I love it. It's made a huge impact on me as a person and us as a business. Yeah,
it's a great book. I highly recommend it as well. Wow. I could go on and on and on and ask a million questions. There's just so much meat here that is fascinating. And if anyone has a question for you, can they reach you? You have an email that they could write to you at?
Yeah, I would love that. I like I said a couple of times, I have a blog. It's called mikedupblog.com. It's MIKEDUP blog.com. And there's a contact form on there that sends emails straight to my inbox. I respond to everyone that I get. I would love it if anybody had any questions or just wanted to reach out and let me know how I could do a better job podcasting. That would be helpful too. So yeah, feel free.
Well, and when are you going to move to Michigan? I need a new dentist, doggone it. Unfortunately,
our first. Well, Nancy, I was going to say we have a patient that actually lives in Colorado that comes back twice a year to see us. But
that's wild.
That's a unique family situation. But still, it's something I can market.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, with that, you got about 2 more minutes. Is there anything quick that you would still like to share with us before we sign off for the day? One last tidbit of thought.
Yeah, I would. Well, 2 things, if I can be very quick, is one is thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. This conversation has flown by, and I've got a chance to listen to a few of your podcasts in preparing for this, and I really think you're doing a great job. So thank you very much for the opportunity and the platform.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And the other thing is, I would say make sure that if you have staff or if you have people that work with you or for you, that you treat them well, you treat them the best job that you can, because ultimately there's going to come a time when there's something that you are not going to be able to do, and you're going to have to rely on somebody else to do it. And if you've treated that person or those people well, and they have respect for you, I'd say there's a higher likelihood that they're going to want to work a little bit harder for you. And that's something I try to remind myself daily.
Talking about that, I've already got a question for our next conversation. And that is, that is, think about this, and that's what we'll start out the next chat with, is when you have staff, and this is a problem I had, because I did treat my staff so well, I got to be really good friends with several of them. And as a consequence, when something happened and I had to be boss as opposed to friend, that caused much grief for me. And, they thought I was just this horrible monster because I became the boss instead of the friend. And I'm sure that happens with other people too. So got a quick answer for that, or should we start our next conversation out with that one?
Well, fortunately, I haven't had that situation crop up yet. I think that my answer would be that there's that dichotomy there, that it's one thing to be friends, but it's another thing. And ultimately you're at work, both of you, to make money. They're trying to make money for their family. You're trying to make money for your business. And I think that respect is one thing, friendship is another. But don't forget why you're there in the first place.
Good point. That's great. And with that, I want to thank you so much, Mike. This has been an incredible interview, and I would urge all of my listeners to download it, subscribe to it, and check in every week to hear more good topics from a wonderful group of business presenters who have wonderful things to let us know. We air on Thursday evenings at 5 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and Spotify. I'm sure that you can find us at any one of those places. Until I talk to you all again, don't sit around and wait till pigs fly, but get out there, do your job, and soar higher. You all have a wonderful day. Take care, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Don't Wait Till Pigs Fly with host Nancy Becker. Join Nancy every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Global Voice Radio.